Hi fight fans, and welcome back to LL Sports TV, more specifically episode 2 of the show Beyond the Ropes. I'm your host Laurie, and I'm joined today by my co-host, former boxer and boxing journalist Melissa Zad in the building. How are you doing today, Melissa?
Hi Laurie.
You didn't leave me hanging.
I didn't. I made sure I thought about it on the way here. I was like, should I leave him hanging? No.
Yeah, so it's great to see you again, Melissa. This is episode 2. How you been? What have you been up
I've been good. Just, life.
Life.
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, good, man. Keeping myself busy doing this type of stuff. Boxing, football. You know I'm an Arsenal fan, right? Do you like football?
Yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan.
Oh, right. Well, even better. I didn't know that before, but now you've endeared yourself to me even more. Right, okay. So today we're going to talk about the downfall of former 4-weight boxing world champion Adrien Broner, and more widely, on a serious point, how boxers cope in latter years and retirement. It seems that boxing, I would say, Melissa, more than any other sport, seems to be afflicted by boxers having problems with their mental health and one or two other things. We've seen the tragic story of Ricky Hatton in the last couple of weeks. That was really sad. Adrien Broner, I've got to say, man, he's been in the news recently. Those of you who are boxing fans, those of you who are keen social media users, will have seen that Adrien Broner has been in the news recently, and not for good reasons. First, there was the incident where he was kicked off the popular podcast It Is What It Is, hosted by the rappers Cameron and Maze. You see that, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they got a popular podcast. They invited Adrien Broner on there. Unfortunately for Adrien Broner, he got kicked off the set for making continual inappropriate advances to one of the female members of staff who were working on the show whilst the show was being filmed. Broner, clearly inebriated, slurring his words, incoherent, seemed very drunk or under the influence of other substances. Then at the weekend, there was another video that surfaced of Adrien Broner at a restaurant, again, either very drunk, out of his head on other substances, or both, seemingly attempting to walk out of a restaurant without paying his tab, which was said to be in excess of $2,000. Broner was heard on the video saying that his life is effed up. His words, not mine. Now, I've got to be honest, Melissa, even though when Adrien Broner first come on the scene, I think it was around about 2018 or so, I was a big admirer of his. I even watched one of his fights out in New York. So at first, I was a big fan of his, but in later years, some of his antics was just way too much. I've often found a lot of his behaviour crass and obnoxious. So I've not really got much time for Broner as a person. But I would say this, what I've seen of him recently is actually getting quite sad now, quite pathetic. And he seems to be in a very dark place. And if he doesn't get help soon, I fear that he could be another sad statistic. I'm going to put it like that. But what's your thoughts on Adrien Broner?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else I can really add to that apart from, I think you summarized it so well. It is quite sad, actually. I mean, I feel like it's gotten past the point, although it's not mutually exclusive. It's gone past the point of inappropriate and just a bit weird. And it's actually clearly a cry for help. He needs some help,
100%.
And I think saying things in such a public space about his life being effed up, is an admission on his part about what he sees his life being, and gives us a really big insight into his mental state. But yeah, really disappointing and upsetting to hear about his antics on the podcast and having to be asked to leave. I also read somewhere that one of the girl's boyfriends was around as well. It just speaks to a lot of different things, but I think he needs help.
He definitely does. I mean, over the years, he's done some pretty awful stuff, ranging from tearing up money and flushing it down the toilet. Remember that?
Yeah.
He did that once. He's been involved in fights, assaults, sexual assaults, drunk and disorderly behaviour. It's just a whole
host of stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
Real poor behaviour. His fall from grace has been going on for some time now. And at first, like I said, it just got to the point where I just didn't want to hear his name, which was sad because, like I said, I was a big fan of his back in the day. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's very talented, 4-weight world champion, different weights, really good fighter, won his first 27 fights. Looked really, he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Floyd. Remember back in the day, people were saying he was a more aggressive version of Floyd Mayweather. I remember chatting to people who said, look, this guy's going to be something really special. But just as you're thinking that he's going to go on and I mean, don't get me wrong, winning titles in 4 different weights is a tremendous achievement, but so much more was expected of him because of his initial success that he had. But now, like I said, it's got to the point where he just needs help, man. And the people around him, they need to try and get him help soon, because I fear that if he doesn't get himself help soon, then I dread to think.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going in a good direction or on a good trajectory. And yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one, isn't it? Because sometimes I do wonder about like the people around, you know, these certain figures and how much of an influence they really have, or if they are saying the right things. And I think with a certain level of like fame and reputation comes attracting a lot of like yes men. And so I do hope he's got the right people around him, because I mean, yeah, it is sad from a mental health perspective, and it's also just like really disorderly and not okay from like a societal perspective as well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's putting himself and lots of others at risk. So yeah, the fall from grace is,
He's talked about self-harm and suicide in the past as well, Adrien Broner. He's on the record as, you know what I mean, having videos out with him playing with guns and talking, you know what I mean, about, if not suicide, and saying, you know what I mean, where does it all end and stuff like that. So he has shown signs of that in the past. So I think, like you said, he's a danger not just to other people but to himself, and it's really sad. But what I was going to ask you, Melissa, so as a boxing fan, well, we're both boxing fans, but I'm coming to the inescapable conclusion that boxers, probably more than any other sport that I can care to mention, seems to have a problem with suffering from mental health, particularly in later years or when they've retired. Why do you think that is with boxers?
I think it's quite a multifaceted reason. And I think that in its genesis, it probably stems from like the kinds of people that are attracted to boxing in the first instance, because, you know, at the end of the day, you're getting punched in the face, you're punching people in the face, right? So it's kind of feels a bit counterintuitive unless like, you know, you have something within you that kind of speaks to that side of stuff. So I think it does attract a lot of people with a lot of trauma, and it can be a really helpful tool to work through a lot of trauma. And then of course, like, they're under the lights and they are like filled with this adrenaline, and their star is rising, and all these feelings that go along with being a professional boxer. And that I imagine is so addictive and hard to let go of. And I wonder, like, when that time is over for them, like, what do they replace that feeling with? Is it replaceable?
Yeah, I've heard people in boxing and indeed other sports talk about that void that is left when they've finished their sporting professions. They've been at the height, the fame, the adulation, the money, you know what I mean, everything that goes with it, and then all of a sudden, they're yesterday's men. Nobody really cares that much anymore. It must be hard to deal with. But one of the things that I think with boxers that, and indeed I've seen it with people that I know who have been professional boxers, and we can't get away from this, and that is the concept of CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I hope I've not butchered that name.
No.
CTE for short. Yeah. And basically that's a degenerative brain disease caused by the cumulative damage of taking punches over the years. I think that has a lot to do with it as well. And I have a few personal examples of friends of mine who have been involved in professional boxers. Obviously, I'm not going to name them. I know quite a few professional boxers, so I'm not obviously applying it to all of them. But certainly there's one or two guys I know personally that have boxed. They're definitely not the same people that I knew from back in the day. And it's kind of sad. Again, they suffer from short-term memory loss, mood swings, depression, and just basically on a one-on-one level. When I see them, when I talk to them, I'm thinking, wow, he's not the same guy that I knew back in the day. Is that something that you've noticed as well?
Oh,
because you've been a journalist, you would have met plenty of boxers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely something I've noticed, and it's definitely something that's quite clear when you look at some high-level boxers who've maybe taken quite a lot of punishment, like even in the way that, we've all seen it, like the way that certain boxers might slur their words a little bit, and that they didn't 5 years ago. So of course that has to have come from like traumatic damage to the head, right? So if it's creating an issue even with getting words out, then I'm sure it's creating a much deeper issue as well.
Sure.
So yeah, like at the end of the day, getting hit to the head in 8-ounce gloves or 10-ounce gloves is not, it's not healthy, right? So it's not healthy for your brain, for your mind, and I'm sure that definitely has an impact, which is quite sad. And I wonder like what can be done to support pro boxers who retire in order to get them to a more sustainable route.
Yeah, I was just looking for the stat because I read a book, forget the name of the author now, maybe I'm suffering from a bit of CTE, but yeah, he did a book and it sort of went into detail about boxers suffering from CTE. I was trying to pull up the percentage, but it's a lot more than what people think. In this book that I read, he was suggesting it could be as high as 80%.
Really?
8 out of 10 boxers, varying degrees obviously, that suffer from CTE, especially
huge number.
Once they've retired. Yeah, because it's once you get later on in years that the effects start to show itself.
Up, yeah.
And they can range from, like I said, from headaches to dizziness, mood swings, memory loss. But obviously some fighters suffer more than most. So yeah, it's a real big thing in boxing.
Which makes sense that it shows up later on in life, because obviously that's when lots of things show up, right? Like if someone's prone to like Alzheimer's or whatever, that's the time when your body's not able to process things as quickly that it does show up, which is quite scary, because in a way it's like, well, what can they really do to avoid it? Like this is the route that they've chosen. It involves being hit to the head. And yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, it's very real, man. I mean, like I said, there's varying degrees of it. So back in the day, like when I was coming up and stuff, you would see certain people and people say, yeah, he's punch drunk. That used to be the term.
Punch drunk, yeah, exactly.
But that was the more obvious signs where they walked with their gait was a little bit off, and they just generally look really bad. So it was a very obvious thing to see. Right, but nowadays it's a little bit more nuanced as well. Sometimes it's not until you talk to somebody, then you can see more signs of it. You know what I mean? But a lot of boxers will tell you that it's the mood swings they get, fits of anger, fits of rage. You know what I mean? It's like really prevalent. And you mentioned something there which is caught my interest as well when you talk about what can be done to help boxers. I mean, I know the British Boxing Board of Control, they're trying to assist fighters. I know that there's, I think Paul Smith, former boxer, former British champion, former world title challenger, one of the Smith brothers from Liverpool. I think he's actively engaged in trying to set up a union or an organisation that looks after boxers. But definitely more needs to be done. But yeah, it's a real big thing. Real big thing, man, and something that seems to... I mean, I know rugby players and even footballers as well have spoken about it. Footballers through heading the ball, rugby players through the collisions they have on the pitch. But boxing is one of those sports where it's really badly affected. I think MMA's got problems with it too now.
Yeah, it would do,
but certainly
wouldn't it?
Boxing is... I don't know what... I mean, obviously it's obvious to say that if they need more help, but how do they coordinate that? I don't know.
It's really hard. I mean, as you say, if the signs aren't even appearing until later on, like what can they really do to do anything to help in that scenario? Like, of course, as part of boxers' trainings, they're going to need to spar. They're going to need to take those blows. They're going to need to get in the ring where they're putting themselves at risk. So many boxers that we know of have had, huge injuries of just getting in the ring, let alone reaching later years in life. So I think it almost, like, without sounding defeatist, like it does come with the territory.
It does. It does.
But, aside from like the CTE stuff, I think a lot more can be done to support boxers post-retirement, just to make sure that they feel that they've still got purpose and drive. And I think that perhaps, that is some help that can be measured and also implemented.
And the trouble with brain injuries as well, and I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, when I mention this is that once once your brain is injured in that way, it doesn't repair itself.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it seems pretty obvious to say, but if you have a broken arm or a broken leg, you can get operations and get it repaired. If you have damage to your brain, however, you're not really going to repair that, are you? So
No.
a lot of the time, once the damage is there, it's there. The only thing you can do is try and assist that person afterwards. There's no real preventative cures for that type of stuff. So yeah, it's a real sad thing. And like I said, when I saw the incidents with Broner recently, I thought to myself, this has gone past the stage where it's just him acting out and being a clown or being obnoxious. There's something seriously wrong with this guy, and if he doesn't get help soon, I worry what might happen to him.
Yeah, agree.
You know what I mean? So yeah, is there anything else you want to say on that? I mean, you know, like I said, I'd love to see something done, but what exactly? How are they going to organise it? Because it must be a difficult.
Yeah, it must be very, very difficult. I don't know, but I mean, going back to just Adrien Broner quickly, and just the idea of like the circles that he keeps, etc. Like, I've got friends who are professional boxers, and one in particular, you know, she makes sure that her circle is like very small and it's like filled with trusted people, so that she can be guided in the right way. And I think like, if there was any like word of advice that I could give to boxers, is just be careful of the people around you, because they will influence you, and you need to make sure they've got your best interests at heart especially when your rise to stardom is happening. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I don't think, just in closing, I don't think boxing is foolproof in that way, but I do think there are things that boxers can do to help themselves. I mean, the first thing is quite obvious. They need to live a disciplined life, both inside and outside the ring. So, you know what I mean, not drinking, smoking, taking drugs or any other mind-altering substances will be a massive help in that regard. But I've seen stuff from other boxers where they say that they do like to do things that will improve their mental capacity. So things like reading and stuff like that.
Meditation.
There are simple things like doing puzzles and stuff like that. To try and, you know what I mean, keep the brain active, keep it working, because, you know, the brain is like a lot of other muscles in the body. If you don't use it, it can degenerate, you know what I mean? It atrophies. So things like that. But ultimately, boxing is a very dangerous sport. At the end of the day, you get, especially at professional level, you're getting hit in the head. And over a period of time, that's cumulative. It's damage to the brain. And I don't really see how you can get away with it. It's just a dangerous sport. As much as we love it, the facts are is that it's a dangerous sport and always will be. So, but yeah, I thought we would just discuss that. And like I said, the problems that Adrien Broner is experiencing at the moment kind of highlights, you know what I mean, the pitfalls of being a professional boxer. So, but Melissa, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Keep it locked and loaded. Beyond the Ropes with myself and Melissa every week. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. Take care. We're out.